in a previous video, we had launched the Docker container serving up the Confusion website using a Docker image that I had already created for you. In this video and the next, we're going to examine how to build that Docker image. Now, for serving up our website, we're going to use the Nginx Web Server, the hip tech geek's choice for a web server. Now, the details of the Nginx Web Server is right behind me. You can check out more details about the Nginx on the site there. Now, in addition, there is an official Docker image available for the Nginx server, so we can directly make use of this Docker image that has the Nginx already built in to launch our web server. Before we get started, in a convenient folder on your computer, in this case, I am in my documents/Docker folder, I'm going to download the contents of the website that I have already created for you, the Confusion website. So to do that, at the prompt, type git clone https github.com jmuppala jmuppala docker-confusion.git, and this will clone the GitHub repository that contains the website to your computer, and then you will be seeing a docker-confusion folder there. Let's move into the Docker Confusion folder, and then you will see that this contains the files for our website. Now, in order to launch a Docker-based web server, as I said, we're going to use Nginx. So to do that, at the prompt, let's first say docker run -dp 8080:80. You know why we do this. And then we'll say --name confusion Nginx, and then launch the Nginx official Docker image based container to run our web server. And as you would expect, since this is not available locally, it is going to pull down the image from Docker Hub. And once that is done, then the container will be launched. And once the container launches, we can check the container by opening Docker Dashboard or Kitematic if you're running Docker Toolbox, and you can see that the Confusion server is up and running. Now let's go to a browser and then try to access this website. Going to a browser, in the address bar, type localhost:8080, and then you should see that the Nginx web server is up and running, and you should see this in your browser. Now, if, as you already know, if you're running Docker Toolbox on Windows, then instead of localhost, use 192.168.99.100 or whatever the appropriate IP address that is displayed by the Docker Quick Start terminal on your computer. Now, obviously, this is not the website that we are interested in. We actually want to launch the website based on the Confusion website that we have already developed. So to do that, we should have a way of copying that website into this web server and then let it serve up that website. Now, the official Docker image for Nginx serves up whatever is copied into /user/share/nginx/html folder of the Docker container. So how do we copy files into the Docker container from our local computer? Let's learn the docker CLI command for that. Again, going back to the terminal, since we are already in the documents Docker confusion folder, this Docker confusion folder should already contain the files for our website. So let's copy all these files from this folder to the running Docker container based on the Nginx image. So to do that, we will use the docker cp command, which copies files from your local folder to the confusion container that is already running. Now, to do that, we'll say docker copy, and then we'll specify the local folder's name, which in this case, this happens to be my current folder. I'll just say dot, and then copy this into confusion colon. So the confusion refers to the name of the container that is running. And I want to copy this into /user/share/nginx/html folder. And once you do that, whatever is in this particular folder will be served up by the Nginx server as the website. So this is the way of copying a local folder contents into the container. If you want to copy a folder contents from the container to your local machine, then you would say docker copy, and then you'll first specify the folder in the container, and then you'll specify where to copy that into your local computer. So this is the docker copy command works in both directions. Now remember that if you are running a Docker container, it has its own file system that is accessible only from within that container. So this is a way of copying files into that file system created for the Docker container that is already running there. So let's go ahead and copy the files, and then let's go to the browser and then reload the site in the browser window. Going to the browser, let me again reload this site, and then voila, you see the confusion site being served up by my Docker container running the Nginx based web server. So this Docker container obviously contains this website, and then I can browse the website. So this is a very easy way for you to launch a website. But what I have just illustrated to you is not the complete solution to the problem. Why? Let's go ahead and examine what happens next. Let's go ahead and stop the Docker container. So let me just check the Docker container, and you can see that the container is running there. So I will say docker stop and confusion, and then docker remove confusion. Now, if you are a GUI person, unlike a CLI person that I am, then just use Docker Desktop or Kitematic to stop the container and remove the container. And then now if I say docker ps, you will see that the container is gone. And I can even check to see if there are any stopped containers. And then to do that, I'll say docker ps space -a or -a. And then you see that the container doesn't exist there. Now, let me again launch the Docker container. So to launch the Docker container, I'll again go back to the previous command that I have used to start the container, which is docker run -dp-att, and then launch the container. Now, once the container starts running, what do you expect this container to be serving up as the website? Well, take a guess, and then we'll go to the browser and then reload the browser. Going back to the browser, if I now reload the browser, you see that the Docker container is serving up the standard Nginx index.html file, not the confusion website that we had copied into it. So every time you stop a container and restart the container, the contents of the file system of that container disappears, and then it is completely recreated. So the Docker image, the Nginx Docker image itself, doesn't contain our confusion site related files in there. how do we create an image which already includes all these files in there so that you can simply just launch the Docker container directly and then have the Confusion site being served from there. Now, I have already demonstrated to you that it is possible to create such image. So in the next video, I'm going to demonstrate to you how to construct that Docker image, the custom image for our web server that we are going to serve up the Confusion site.